My lovely, lovely, wonderful people, a pleasant evening to everybody. Now, what I'm going to talk about, I'm sure there is statistics on it, but I'm choosing this time not to really go and look at the statistics. You can, because sometimes people tend to, and it's a scientific move. We have to base our theories or hypotheses on history, which is, things that would have happened, in the past. Even if it was 10 minutes ago, it's still the past. So we have to base a lot of what we promulgate on facts. Don't get me wrong, and so forth. But also, we can base a lot of our theories and hypotheses on observations, and I'm going to do that for this particular post. You can either accept or reject. It's just my choice, but to do that this time. Yeah, we're gonna see how credible what I'm saying is. One of the things, and this is coming via observing men, observing women, talking to men. They always have a saying though that says, "See me and live with me" are two different things. True, but there is also truth in when you spend time with people, you get to know them, even if you do not live with them. There are some traits that you see innately or they're socialized, that are just synonymous to men, and some traits that are just synonymous to women. Now, if you understand the biological makeup of a man versus a woman, by and large, what I mean by that, generally speaking, primarily, it's not all the time, but most of the time, probably 80% and above, you find that men, their trigger point is sight. So men are moved by sight, and I think that is one of the stimuli in the men that causes them to pursue the woman. So they like what they see. They're triggered by what they see. They like what they see, or they don't like what they see, and they either go after it or they don't go after it. You know what I mean? So their trigger is their strongest sense is what they go by what they see, and they go after it. So if you notice, you'll see a bunch of men in a conversation, a bunch of heterosexual men in a conversation, and a beautiful woman passes, and if they reach "and" in the sentence, if they only start with the subject and they have not reached the predicate, they're going to stop right there at the subject. They're going to stop right there at the phrase, at maybe the dependent clause even, before finishing and completing the sentence, and start to woo that lady and, be wowed by her and making their signals, trying to get her attention, because they're triggered by what they see. Now, women, on the other hand, we are triggered primarily by what we hear, what is said to us, and how you make us feel. So the words that you say to us and how you make us feel. God through Peter, his manservant, said, "Husbands, be careful to not embitter your wives. Do not abuse them verbally, nor physically, nor psychologically, emotionally, mentally, and all of that, sexually. Fine, and don't abuse them. But he was saying, don't be harsh with your words, because it breaks the woman. And if you break that woman, it's like you're trying to come at me. She's a part of the vulnerable group, and I have to put on a double-edged protection on her, because she doesn't have the physical strength like you. On a bigger and robust, I'm just adding all of that now. So your prayers will be hindered if you hinder this woman, so to speak. Women, if you look at our biological makeup, we are made to receive. So we have the vulva, the vagina, and it's made to receive the penis. You stick it in and you take it out when needs be. The physical is connected to the social, it is connected to the spiritual, it is connected to the psychological and to the mental. Women are made to receive. General. Remember, everything I'm talking about is general. You will always have exceptions to the rule. You will always have them. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the majority. Because of that, women are triggered by that, and they're made to receive. When a woman goes out and she gifts men it is not fulfilling the strongest trigger and stimuli of that man. And that is why you find sometimes men don't generally receive gifts well, or they get it and they're grateful for it and so on. You know what I mean? What you consider, for example, you might, I'll hear women say, boy, I built that man up. I gave him money. I gave him clothes, shoes, this, that, and the third. They're probably, a good man is going to be grateful and all of that, but that really isn't his trigger, because he's the one generally made to provide, to give. He is made to give. A solid man, he comes alive when he gives to his woman. He comes alive when he gives to his woman, when he provides. So when a woman assumes that it is, when I give the man money, I give him shoes, clothes, send him to school, and you're doing the reverse, it is not strengthening and watering the stimuli that really makes up that man and, and really stimulates him. Because that is not his trigger, that is not his strength, that is not how he's fashioned, how he's shaped, how he's formed. It is now by how you show him respect. Well, both sexes need respect. So it is maybe by, the things that you say, by not embarrassing him, by not controlling him. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're going to prepare his meal. You now become that helper, that kind of helpmate to him. You're making life easier for him. You're taking off the burden because he's working to provide for you. He's working to provide for the children. He feels good doing that. He feels good giving. So it's not great on the receiving end. And oftentimes, women, you think that that will strengthen the love between you and the man. It will not, because it is not a stimulant for him. It is not. He may be grateful and thankful, of course, but it is not a stimulant. It's like sex. We are, both men and women love it because we're created with the feeling. Don't get me wrong, and we love it. You know what I mean? And women, but women may not, and remember, it's generally speaking, men, because of how the physical body is made up of the man, how the penis is and how the testicles are, they need sex. Their bodies, they can get blue balls, which can affect them physically. So a woman can go without sex and she's quite fine. No matter how she feels horny and all of that, she'll be quite fine physically. You know what I mean? Maybe mentally, she may get into a little frustration, but that's another topic. But I'm talking about because of how the man is made up. So him not just want sex, he needs it. So it's like a double whammy. Let me say it that way. They not only want it, but they need it. So it's double the effect on them. So that is why they will move heaven and earth to get sex, and it helps in their provision. So they provide so that they can receive it from you, that sex from you, while you physically receive that, thing from him. So ladies, I want you to understand the psyche of a man. He's not wired in the way that you are wired to receive things. He is the provider. He is the protector. He's a giver, because he's like a representation of God. And you are made to receive. Not to say you're not doing anything, you're the helpmate. You know what I mean? There are things that you're going to do, to really stimulate that man. So you provide, one of his, in the top 3, sex is there. How you speak to him, whether he's with people or not with people, how you provide the food, how you care for the children, how you care for him in terms of making him look good, how you represent him when you're speaking. You speak with wisdom, you speak with honor, you speak with value, you speak with respect. Those things help to build that, while you look good physically, because remember, he's moved by what he sees. So you could have bright like man, say I could have cooked good food, you could have this. If you look terrible, it's going to affect him because he's triggered by what he sees. Men are not, their stimulant or their stimuli is not receiving gifts. And we're not talking about sex in that sense. We're talking about providing for him. Men are the providers. So it's not, so when you see him probably turn from you and leave you for somebody else, you really weren't, unfortunately, strengthening the relationship. Because that is not his trigger. That is not his stimuli. All right? A word to the wise is sufficient unto the day. Guys, you know what to do with TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe, give me one of those lines. Follow me.